In this video, we're going to be discussing the Ramban, Nachmanides, as he is called, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. He was born in Girona, Spain in 1195, and he passed away in Israel in the year 1270. He studied by, his main Talmudic teacher was Rabbi Yehuda ben Yakar, and he studied Kabbalah from Rabbi Ezra and Israel of Girona, who were students of Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nohar, Rabbi Isaac the Blind, who we discussed in a previous video. He was a tremendous student. He finished the Talmud at the age of 16, and he did not want to make his living from being a Torah teacher or being a rabbi, so he became a physician. Eventually, that did not last, and he ended up becoming the chief rabbi of the entire Catalonia. So that obviously failed, but he stayed in Girona. I believe he still lived in Girona till almost the end of his life, as we'll see shortly. He also studied by many of his teachers were influenced by French rabbis, Tosafists, who and like we said, even his Kabbalistic teachers as well were influenced by Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nohar and the Raavad, also French rabbis. So he actually has a very unique style of Torah study that really blends the style of learning of the Tosafists with the traditions of the Sephardic Jewry. So a very unique style in that time period. And there are times when you'll study Jewish law, and there'll be kind of, sometimes you'll see, okay, it's the Sephardim versus the Ashkenazim. The Sephardic rabbis have one way of understanding the Talmud, and therefore their way of deciding Jewish law. And then you'll have the Ashkenazi rabbis who understand that their way, and that's kind of where the debate goes. So anybody who is on this side is the Sephardic rabbis, anybody who's on that side is the Ashkenazi rabbis. But every once in a while, Nachmanides will end up on the Ashkenazi side. And this is the reason, because of his influence of his teachers by Tosafists, who either traveled to Spain, to Girona and other areas, or if some of his teachers, I believe, also traveled to France as well. So very interesting as far as that goes. His probably most famous, one of the things that he's most famous for is the great debate, the Vikuach of Barcelona, the Debate of Barcelona. At some point when he was in his advanced age, he was challenged by a Jewish apostate, a Jew who had converted to Catholicism, whose name was Pablo Cristiani, and he and the Dominican friars or monks, I'm not sure what they're called, challenged Nachmanides in Barcelona. At some point, he didn't really have a choice. He wasn't really interested in the debate, but he was given reassurances by the king. At that time, it was King James I of Aragon, that part of Catalonia and Spain. He was the king over there, and he assured Nachmanides, he was impressed by him, and he assured him that he would have freedom of speech, because what would usually happen in these debates was they would cook the results beforehand. They would say, because the Christians were the governing body, and they would say, well, we're going to bring you, and then they would violate their own rules, and they would throw them in jail or kill them for apostasy, for saying something against their religion. So he was assured by the king that he would be given full free speech during the debate. He could say whatever he wanted. And what ends up happening is Nachmanides, they discussed basically about whether the Messiah had already come, and whether the person in their religion was the Messiah, etc., and how that would fit with Jewish law. And Nachmanides totally destroyed them in the debate. He was victorious, and the king was very, very impressed by Nachmanides, even attending one of his sermons in his synagogue as an appreciation, though that might have backfired later. So the Dominicans, though, they, like in many of these debates, they decided they were going to record their version of the debate, and Nachmanides did not appreciate that, so he wrote his own version. So, and it still extant till today, this Vikuach, this debate of Barcelona, and it was actually, this version was actually given approval by the king. In other words, the King James said that this is the correct version of the debate, and then Nachmanides had won the debate handedly. However, the Dominicans used this as an opportunity to basically say that he had blasphemed, he had their religion and their savior, whatever it was, in not in the debate where he was reassured free speech, but in his recording of the debate. And basically, they put him on trial, and a whole long story. And at some point, he was sentenced to exile. He might have been fined, but the king tried his best to put his foot on the scale. Even I remember hearing once that he actually, I don't recall where it was, that's why I'm saying it like that, that he actually went to preach in the synagogue, and it was a big disaster. Bottom line is, Nachmanides had to flee. He felt that he could not live there any longer, even though he was given reassurances by the king that he would be able to, live there. And at the age of about 72, he has to leave his hometown. And I don't believe his family came with him, definitely not his extended family. He was kind of heartbroken about that. He ends up going to wandering around and eventually making Aliyah, making the trek to Israel. And he goes to Jerusalem and he sees Jerusalem is in ruins. And it was very depressing for him, seeing that there were at the time maybe 2 or 3 Jews who lived in Jerusalem. This is again the aftermath of the Crusades and that have been in those previous generations. So Jews really were not living in Jerusalem. Till today, there is a Nachmanides synagogue, a Ramban synagogue in Jerusalem, but I don't know if that is related exactly. That he himself attended that synagogue, or I'm not sure about. I'm sure you can look it up. And he ends up settling in Akko, and he tries his best to strengthen Judaism there for the last few years of his life. And he passes away at the age of about 75 or 76, and he is buried in Haifa. So this kind of a sad ending to a brilliant life, but he is. But at the end of the day, he really didn't have a choice as far as the debate of Barcelona and his exile. And his legacy lives on through his writings. So his main writings, so one of his writings are Pirush al Torah, which is a commentary on the Torah, and it's very different than the other rabbis of his era, that it's much more Kabbalistic leaning compared to Rashi and the Rambam and Ibn Ezra and others, who focus more on the simple meaning of the text. Nachmanides put more of an emphasis on the Kabbalistic approach in the text. We also have the Chidushei Ramban, which are as essays on Talmudic topics, and again, kind of blending this style of the laws based on the traditions of the Sephardic Jews, but it's more of follows the style of the Tosafists of the French and German Ashkenazi Jews. One of his most famous books is the Milchamos. The Milchamos is his defending the Rif against, I believe it was the Razal, the Zerachi Alevi, and others who had written against the Rif. And in the Milchamos, he is extremely sharp. His language is very, very sharp. Fascinating defense of the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi, the great Sephardic posek, the great Sephardic decider of Jewish law. And of course, the Vikuach, his version of the debate that was given to, that was approved by the king, James himself. So the Ramban, his legacy really boils down to his writings, his teachings, and his style of Kabbalistic teachings that is very important and until this day. And like we said, he studied Kabbalah at a young age. And one of the traditions is that the manuscript of the Zohar was actually discovered by the Ramban. Whether it was in Israel or in Spain is unclear, and that he sent it to Rabbi Moshe de Leon, who ends up publishing the Zohar. So it seems that the Ramban might have been involved in that story. We discussed in the first video of this series of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We kind of discussed the authenticity of the Zohar, so you could go back to that video if you want more information. But it seems that the Ramban might have been the one who actually discovered the book, or received it from his teachers, or perhaps when he went to Israel and sent it to Rabbi Moshe de Leon. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.